It is, middle of week 4 of this mess now. I think we've done at least 4 of these webcasts now. We're keeping pace. Happy Passover, and my apologies to Rich. He will hopefully join us here in a few minutes, but I neglected to tip him off to our late plans to just have a webcast tonight. Rob could join us, so we're going to be talking about our division, the NOCO West. But I want to make sure Rich joins us, so we're gonna stall a little bit. We've got a few other topics we'll talk about, and hopefully Rich will come on here shortly. Did I mention our specific date? It is Wednesday, April 8th now. NFL draft hopefully coming up later this month. Scheduled. April 23rd to 25th, I think the dates are for that. And as we've stated here before, I think we're all in support of Roger Goodell ramming this thing through against maybe some legitimate concerns, but who cares? Go do a draft from your basement and home offices like the rest of us, for crying out loud. You can do it.
Well, we don't even do that.
Right.
We still got it.
Yeah, come on. So panel intros real quick. Our IT directors are and CEO of the K-Wheels. Hank, welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here. Good to see everyone.
Berto, High Command from Jack's Giant Killers.
Hey, Stick. Thank you for reminding us what day it is. I appreciate that.
I have to remind myself.
I was unfamiliar with what day.
It was Wednesday today.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, how was the new Fish album?
I would give it an 8. I thought it was very good. Some people think it's the best album since Story of the Ghost or Billy Breathes. I don't. I think there was a couple others in there that were pretty good as well, but certainly better than the last 2, Big Boat Fuego. So very, very good album.
All right. Happy for you. Good.
And they're still doing Tuesday night dinner and movie webcasts. So last night was the jam-filled donut of the Baker's Dozen on August or July 25th, 2017. Really good show.
Good. So. That's all you needed was in the middle of a pandemic to have a shitty Fish album dropped on you. So I'm happy for you. Good.
Right. And it went to number 1 on iTunes too. I don't know if people saw that, which was interesting.
All right. And our special guest tonight, Rob Iannuzzi from the Boba Fats. So glad you can join us.
Thanks for having me.
Hope all are safe and sane in your world.
As safe and as sane as you can be with a 1-year-old and a 5-year-old running around this place.
Yeah. And welcome to our guest. As always, very appreciative to have Bill Thornburg watching us.
Thorny.
It just dropped off because he texted me and he was on, and now I see we have a 0 viewer number again. So maybe against the hype here, but regardless, now he's back.
All right, good.
So cheers to Mr. Thornburg for joining us.
So I'll hold our trivia question just a moment to see if Rich can join us soon enough. But let's start talking about a couple things, including. So here was the, I think, fascinating topic that's worthy of discussion. So again, the NFL is going to have a 2020 draft, whether it really happens in 2 weeks or in 2 months. It's going to happen. There are players coming out, a lot of good young offensive players coming out. We're going to be excited to watch that at some point. Without getting into a depressing argument, let's just presume for the sake of discussion, there is no 2020 NFL season. There is no 2020 college football season. And I won't tell you all the reasons I think that's indeed going to be the case, but there's plenty of evidence that is the case. In 2021, then, I think there will be another NFL draft. I think, by rule, a lot of players who at that point will now be 3 years removed from high school, regardless of the fact that they haven't accrued another college football season. I think you're going to have another wave of eligible draft class players. And barring some major change, the NFL will have another draft. Various questions then come up. What is the draft order for that NFL draft? For the TFFL, I presume we'll have a 2020 TFFL draft, regardless of whether there's a season. We have incoming rookies to draft. what are the implications then if we know we don't have a season? What are the implications for the 2020 TFFL draft? Why bother taking a kicker? Why bother taking a defense? Why bother drafting veterans? Load up on guys who aren't going to – nobody's going to play this year, but guys who may be keepers in 2021. And then what happens with our 2021 TFFL draft? What's our draft order? Lots of questions there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So a lot of questions, I'll say this, and good questions and a fun, well, not fun, but an interesting topic. But the NFL needs to figure out this draft. They need to figure out probably 200 things prior to even thinking about that particular topic, right? So I don't know. To me, it's so far out there when there's so many sooner, closer in unknown questions to be answered.
Of course.
But I'll say this, I do believe that there will be some sort of football season this year, maybe not starting in September, we'll see. But there will be football this year in some fashion at some point. The whole thing about if there is no season, I would assume for the TFL draft, we would have to do some sort of random lottery system or something in terms of how we draft players. If there were to be no season somehow, we would have to do some sort of draft or some sort of random ping pong ball type situation to see who's going to get draft picks.
There'll be no controversy involved there at all.
What if there is no season and we simulated the season on Madden?
Nice. I like that, Fats. I mean,
Wow, great idea.
Draft our players.
I like Pat's idea. A couple of thoughts here. First, these are all fun topics to think about. Who the hell knows what's going to happen? I think we can say we should have a TFL draft this year, regardless, even if regardless of the season is, because the NFL draft is on. They're doing it virtually. I bet it does happen in 2 weeks. And my biggest argument, I think I said this before, it remains true. The NFL wants to give the people content. The people want content. They're going to figure out a way to put on a football season of some fashion, unless things go totally sideways. Which it could. And then the other piece that I think I mentioned this before as well is the esports simulation thing is not out of the question if we get to that point. I mean, they're televising esports right now. Televising it. It's compelling. So
and you're able to bet on the televised esports.
Yes, you can bet on it.
Well, I don't think there's going to be a football season this year,
No?
college or pro. I just don't. This whole baseball thing isn't going to happen either. I don't think, this whole Arizona thing they're talking about.
Thing.
There's
You hear about North Dakota?
There's too many people. You're not, and no one's going to play without crowds. Like, why would you do that?
I think there's a small chance the NBA can figure this out, given the smaller sizes of the teams involved. I've seen them talking about putting all the teams in one location and creating your own Olympic Village type thing where you can test people. And I think the teams are small enough. Maybe they could pull that off.
What do you do with people's families? All the coaches and the trainers and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's challenging. It's not, Bill's screaming not to be paranoid, but this is not easy. The real warning sign.
Reality, right?
The real warning signs here, not even warning signs. California has already made clear there will be no sporting events taking place in that state this fall.
Right.
The other thing that is a reality is college campuses. I'm reading a lot about this. They're not expecting to open up their campuses in the fall. Mm-hmm. That college football is not happening.
Right.
The NFL maybe is a non-zero chance, but college football I don't think is happening. But there is Berto, you're right. I mean, there's still a lot of time here. This is unprecedented, and things could conceivably change dramatically. But at the moment, these are questions that are not unreasonable for us to be talking about.
They tried. Didn't they try to do a baseball season in South Korea or China, and it blew up in their faces? Like someone immediately
China. I think, yeah, China did, and
basketball, wasn't it?
Right.
Basketball in China.
South Korea is the hope here.
Right.
They're actually going through some exhibition. I don't know if it's exhibition games or practices yet, and they've got rigorous testing, and they've got a rule that says if we find one person, bat boy, then we start the clock all over. But at the moment, they're in like this 2-week period where if they can get through it, they'll start the season in less than 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But South Korea again was way ahead as a country, not just a sporting culture, was way ahead of this and corralled it way better than we did. So they're an outlier, not necessarily a model that we can follow.
But and Fats raises a good point about all the other, and we talked about this on the last webcast. All the other ancillary people, that's a big, who knows? But
yeah. But we'll keep talking about this, and hopefully it'll eventually be a more positive topic where we talk about strategies for navigating the 2020 TFFL draft, knowing that none of those guys are going to play this year, but you're building a better roster for 2021.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure there will be no shortage of content on the internet on how to draft next year if the season's canceled.
What else are we going to have to do? We're going to go to daily webcasts.
But for a lot of people out there who just play, what you would call a redraft league, a 1-year league from year to year, I don't know what they're going to do. There's no strategies for a draft for them. They're not going to have a draft.
They're going to spend time with their families. That's
right. They're going to pump the whole thing.
Yeah. Or does everybody suddenly become a keeper leaguer? Like we are. That's the advantage for us is we'll as long as the NFL has its draft and we get some rookies to add to our teams, we'll have fun stuff to look ahead to and talk about.
Maybe there can be an MMA fantasy league. Didn't that guy buy an island?
Yeah,
just gonna have everyone there fighting.
Yep,
on his own island.
I have noticed that UFC is one of the content offerings that's been on TV lately, and I haven't seen a lot of it. So that's like the one thing you've been able to watch, at least I've been able to watch, that's been sort of interesting.
Didn't they just have WrestleMania with no fans?
Really?
I don't know. Did they?
So
I know they were talking about doing it, but it wasn't Gronkowski going to
Gronk won a belt. Gronk won a belt. I believe
so it did happen.
Just had WrestleMania. And it was like optional for the wrestlers, and there was no fans, and everyone was kept separate. And that's all I know about it. I know it went off. I know it had a huge pay-per-view audience, but I didn't actually see any of it.
And Gronk won a belt.
And I believe Rick Pitino may have fought some doesn't his son coach or something like that?
Wait, Rick Pitino?
Rick Pitino, the head coach of where does he coach?
Louisville
or something like that.
Louisville.
I believe he was involved in some way. Anyways, we can go look it up later.
Okay.
Remember a couple years ago we started or maybe it was last year, whatever. Concussion discussions on Webcast was several webcasts that we talked about that. Many actually, but one of the things that came up was player safety. One day they're going to be, we talked about flag football. And then I said, well, you remember the show The Jetsons? And they had the robots just playing football out there. Just put a bunch of robots out there in uniforms and, we're already there. And it eliminates the player safety conversation. There you go.
Thornburg's chiming in on the Rick Pitino discussion, and we don't mean Rick Pitino. We mean Richard Pitino, who's his son, the coach at Minnesota, I believe.
Okay. What about him? He wrestled?
Apparently, Richard Pitino was involved in WrestleMania somehow.
I read something about it, yeah. Anyways.
Fair enough.
All right. Well, we're still waiting on Rich. Let me try to bring up another topic that we've actually been touching upon throughout some recent webcasts. We'll see if we can make it a bigger one. As we've been going through team by team, division by division, and analyzing projected keeper lists, one of the things that keeps coming up is, what a shitty group of running backs so and so has, or that's not a Pac Bowl caliber group of running backs. And I think I've said this a couple times to you guys. you can say that about, so many teams in the TFFL. I'm not sure it's fair to look at any one team and say, oh my God, their running backs are so bad. There's nobody with a deep running back core, with the number of people who have 3 good running backs right now that they will be carrying forward, is limited to, it's Ralph, of course, with Zeke, Fournette, Dalvin Cook. I actually think Berto's got a nice trio of running backs in the form of Chubb, Chris Carson, Miles Sanders. But I'm looking around here. We talked about the Hams last week, and you guys were panning the Hams running backs. But I think Sony Michel, Damian Williams, David Johnson actually looks like a pretty good running back trio.
I'll take my 3 over those.
The Slippery Beavers, had a great season last year, undefeated, and have some great running backs. That's it. I mean,
What about the Wheels? What about mine? You don't like my running backs?
I don't think Devin Singletary is. I think he's a borderline keeper as a 3rd running back.
Interesting.
No.
Okay.
You're a
I don't
Tony
agree
Cohen
with
guy.
that at all.
Totally disagree. I think he's top 25 at the worst, maybe top 20.
I agree. I would I'd bump him up even higher than that.
Thank you, Berto.
Yeah.
Suck it, stick. And I have I have one of the top 3 running backs, any way you slice it, in Barkley, and I have another one who's definitely top 10, even if you don't like him, in Derrick Henry.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. I think the Wheels running backs are good. So I think the new TFL, it's like if you got one stud and one solid number 2 running back, you're in today's TFFL, you're in pretty good shape. Where, 4 or 5 years ago, you needed pretty much 2 number 1 guys and maybe your 3rd guy, a 2 or a 3 type running back, or a stud tight end like a Gronkowski. But things have changed. I mean, there's so much splitting time with running backs. I mean, so it's if you have the stud and a solid number 2 guy and even a 3rd number 2 guy, as your 3rd guy, or a pretty solid 3, you're in good shape. So, and it's different than it used to be because these guys just are not getting the ball more often, and it's just more people in the backfield. And
what's even
you got more quarterbacks running touchdowns in, all sorts of stuff.
What's more important now than ever too is having a decent backup to those studs, or even guys that aren't studs, because running backs are flying all over the place now.
Yeah.
Anybody who gets banged up, like 2-3 guys deep, like they're a fantasy stud.
Yep.
And like you can almost bank on it, right? For a lot of teams.
It's
and
a
those
system
guys are getting
thing.
drafted. And that's a viable strategy, I think, right?
Yeah.
The backup running back, the 3rd string running back.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of times you see that the running backs that matter toward the end of the season and in the playoffs, things like that, are guys who weren't even drafted, or guys who were drafted but not expected to play. And the studs either, sometimes pan out. But if you look at like who the top 5 guys are at the beginning of the season and where they finish, it's not going to match very well.
I mean, our Pac Bowl champion, the Sponge Fishermen, I'm looking at their keeper running backs right now. It's Aaron Jones, who was fantastic last year.
On the stretch, yeah.
Maybe even the fantasy MVP. David Montgomery, who was a solid rookie, but playing on the Bears offense. I'm not going to call him a strong number 2 guy yet. And that's it. There is no number 3 running back on the Sponge. You don't necessarily need 3 strong running backs, but it's tough.
He was getting like 40 from Winston every week, though, and he's getting crazy production out of his wide receivers. Yes, I think we definitely have seen the NFL, even become more and more of a passing league. Not that it hasn't been, but even more with guys like Mahomes and Lamar Jackson now being top of the pyramid guys you want on your team over guys like, Saquon Barkley or whoever you think the best running back is. The games are changing. NFL's changing.
I think the Lizards took a page out of, the Sponge took a page out of the Lizards playbook, and the Lizards had a real nice run with a dominant wide receiver core. Although I guess their running backs are better at that point too. But and that's kind of where the sponge wrap. But yeah, they had Aaron Jones, and then they had real good receivers. So.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we'll talk about this soon enough here when we look at my division, but the Aliens obviously are a team, like a lot of teams that could use running back help. I'm looking around to see, who's got excess where I could, maybe make a package for, and there's just not a lot of options out there. Let's segue in a little bit here. Instead, I'm looking at the Boba Fats right now, and one of the more fascinating keeper options out there is Raheem Mostert. Potential stud at running back, I guess. Rob, you've got a really interesting roster right now with a lot of keeper options. Where are you on guys like Mostert versus Alexander Madison, for instance?
Versus AJ Green versus Tariq Cohen versus James White.
Marvin Jones. We'll talk. You've got a lot of decisions. We'll talk about them, but let's start with running backs.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it and I try to rank my guys, and then I say this is pointless because we haven't had a draft yet and we haven't gone to camp yet. So I don't have a lot of clarity on those guys. So I think a lot of it's going to be determined by, like I said, the draft, camp. Like, who knows what's going to happen? Obviously, Gurley's a keeper.
Yep.
But does Atlanta draft a running back, right? Mostert, I mean, right now he's definitely a keeper for me. Why wouldn't he be?
He's one of those great. He's an example of what Hank was just talking about. That guy who came out of nowhere at the end of the year, and what a run he!
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, it's huge. But like Madison, and even N'Keal Harry, right? Like two guys that I'm like, I want to keep them so bad.
Yep.
But if I keep those guys, like that means I don't keep AJ Green. So what do you do? Do you just throw him back in there? Because I don't think I'm going to get much for him, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe.
You might get some for AJ Green.
Yeah, I'm sure I would get something, but yeah, I don't know. Tariq Cohen, James White, right? They're keepers, kind of.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, they are, right? But
so
I don't know.
The Fats are one of those teams that has the luxury of a great tight end. Kelsey is awesome. You can just plug him in, third running back every week. That's fantastic. Mm-hmm. But man, I'm just looking at Mostert's numbers again. A touchdown every week from week 12 through week 17. 2 in week 17. 4 that huge game in the NFC Championship game, 4 TDs, yep. And then he had 1 in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, touchdown in the Super Bowl. Yep.
How many yards did he have with those 4 TDs as well? Wasn't that
It was like 220 or something.
Yeah, crazy good game.
So, that's awesome. The issue is, okay, all right, let's have that guy.
Mostert. Is he a flash in the pan, right? I mean,
hopefully, if he's a number 1 for you, Kelsey, and if Gurley's got anything left in the tank, okay, that's not bad. But it's not, you'd like Gurley in his prime, and Kelsey was fantastic, and adding Mostert to the mix as even a running back 1-2 type guy, that'd be real good. But there's a bit of a hole right there right now, and Gurley is a question mark.
The other thing I'm thinking about is I got the number 2 pick in the draft.
Right.
That's going to be a good running back, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of what? I mean, I honestly haven't done a whole lot of research.
Call that Jonathan Taylor right now.
Jonathan Taylor, DeAndre Swift, J.K. Dobbins, right?
A guy who's going to have a legit chance of making a fantasy impact next year. So, is that a third running back right there with Kelsey and Gurley? Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. So does that impact who I keep?
Yeah. So
you keep it Goff?
Right. Let me back this out for just a second. Let's kick off officially our NoCo West preview here.
Berkman's coming. He's short. He's on his way.
Good. So, and we've already sort of started with the Fats, so we'll stay there here for a moment. But let me back it up and just remind people that our division winner here last year was the Lizards. Close battle with the Aliens. Lizards ended up winning that division at 7-5-1. Aliens were 7-6, and it was painful for me to have to remember this, but the Lizards won that by virtue of beating the Aliens in week 13. And then we had a rematch in week 14 in the playoffs, which the Lizards also won. So we're chasing the Lizards. They're not that far out of reach. The Boba Fats last year went 4-9. As Rob mentioned, that earned him the number 2 overall pick in the draft. But the Fats, just back in 2018, went undefeated. The Frams, as we called them.
Last year I was in it until midseason, and I went on this terrible losing streak where I was putting up some points. I think I put up 90 points on Thornburg and lost one week. I mean, it was just disheartening.
You were not at all part of the conversation for the number 1 overall pick. I mean, we weren't even thinking of you for number 2 and then just a bullet.
I had that terrible game against Terry where I think he had all his good guys were on buys. I had all my guys going. And I think I only put up 32 points, and he beat me like 36-32 to knock me out of the Mongols. Knocked me out of the playoffs. That was pretty disheartening.
Ouch. Yeah, the Mongols knocking out of the playoff is not a scenario you want to have to repeat.
Frustrating. It was frustrating. Anyways, go.
So when the Frams were dominating, they were dominating with Jared Goff, throwing to Cooper Kupp, throwing to Todd Gurley out of the backfield, Gurley having monster years. That offense, it'll be interesting whenever we see football again. Is that offense going to be able to come back? We all loved Sean McVay in that offense. But Jared Goff was a different quarterback last year for sure. Mm-hmm. So let's start there at the top of the lineup for the Fats. Is it Goff or is it Cousins? Cousins, was getting thrown, in the grave at the start of last year. What a terrible acquisition he was. Kind of turned it around. He
probably won't keep Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, he is what he is.
Right. I may not keep Goff.
Right.
I may roll into the draft without a quarterback. I mean, I don't know. That's the thing. Like, that's going to almost be a game time decision for me. Like, you guys have been talking about on the previous podcast around, what's Nick going to do with his 2 guys?
Yep.
Should I go after one of them? I've thought about it, but then I'm like, well, I don't know. Anyways, there's going to be guys like Teddy Bridgewater is going to be out there in the draft, right? If I drop Goff, he's going to be in there in the draft. There's going to be lots of guys. And, to your point about Chief, right? Winning with Winston. I had Winston. I traded him Winston. It can be done, right? I won a Pac Bowl 3 years ago with Stafford and then got rid of him.
Yep.
So I don't really feel like I need to keep Goff in order to be competitive with this team. I may be better served keeping, like I said before, the Madisons and the N'Keal Harrys of the world, and hope one or both of them blows up, right? They both are capable. We'll see. I'm not married to Goff, but
I'm a little surprised to hear you somewhat down on AJ Green. Is that mainly because of the recent injury history?
Yeah.
Or Cincinnati?
Well, both. But, they franchised him, right? So he's back.
Yeah.
He should be healthy, but he's 32.
Mm-hmm.
And, he's going to have a rookie quarterback. He's got another good wide receiver there, right? I'm down on him because he hasn't done much in the last year and a half.
Yeah.
Right? So, I'll keep him. But.
I think he will.
Yeah.
That Cincinnati offense, quick aside here, if you believe in Joe Burrow.
Could be good.
Burrow's not walking into a bad situation there if AJ Green is healthy. John Ross, for what he's worth. Alden Tate, was that the name of the guy who kind of emerged as a possession receiver? Mixon, Bernard. Cincinnati could have a decent offense out of the gate with Burrow if he's the real deal. Welcome, Richard.
Especially with Mixon in there.
We're going to get to Mixon momentarily. So my apologies, Rich, and happy Passover.
Happy
Happy
Passover.
Passover, Rich.
Yes.
Thank you, Jen.
And just to put that
From you, Bruno.
it is Happy Passover, right? That's a
is.
celebratory thing. Okay.
Yeah, it's like Happy Holidays, Happy Pesach. It's all good.
Good.
Happy Passover.
So we have
Hank.
we've
Yeah.
stalled fairly successfully for you, Rich. We really
Oh, you
just
did. It was a 28-minute stall.
We did well.
just sort of started talking about our division in depth. We've been discussing the Boba Fetts in particular, but we've not gotten to the lizards or the aliens yet.
Beautiful. Well, give me the
Before we
stuff.
wrap up on the Fats, I want before we wrap up the Fats, AJ Green. Let's not get off of that. He's a great player. I mean, he's somebody that I'm surprised that you're not saying is one of your definite locks to keep. Is he gettable?
He's a keeper. He's gettable. For
I'm
sure.
having the same thought you are, Hank. There may be an offer coming your
I
way.
mean, exactly. I mean, I'm just I'm sort of surprised that you're not that you don't value him maybe quite as highly as I would.
Well, like I said, the guy hasn't played in almost 2 years. We may not have a season, right?
We may.
So
All good points.
are, when you're looking at other guys, 2 good second-year guys that I like, Madison, right? One of your Vikings boys, N'Keal Harry.
N'Keal Harry. If you kept N'Keal Harry over AJ Green, I'd be blown away.
I don't think I would keep. If I had to make that decision, I don't think I would keep N'Keal Harry over AJ Green. But guys like that could be part of a decision to trade AJ Green.
Sure.
I don't think there's a scenario where I would just drop AJ Green right back into it.
And
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Rob brings up a really interesting point that we really didn't touch on in our earlier conversation about what happens if there isn't a season this year. Suddenly, a guy like AJ Green, look, if we don't have a season this year, if you keep him, you're really now saying I'm keeping him for 2021.
Yep.
When he's not going to be 32, he's going to be 33.
Yeah. Way different decision making. Before. Yeah.
Does the potential lack of an NFL season affect keeper decisions we make this year? We might be keeping people for 2021, really.
In his case, I'd probably feel better another year removed from injury.
And that's there's 2 ways to look at it.
But another year older, and he'll be old. I mean,
Receivers age well.
Yeah.
Receivers age well.
He caught one pass week 13 of 2018. And prior to that, week 8, 2018 was his last meaningful game. So he probably tried to come back week 13, 2018, got banged up again. So, man, it has been a long time.
Year and a half.
So not insane for Rob to be asking these questions. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, it's not. All right.
Rich, is there whiskey on Passover?
No, you know what? I could be doing whiskey, but we were already, we let Elijah in and all.
Did you quarantine him? Is he
You drink a lot of wine on Passover. When you're reading through the Passover Seder book, it doesn't say take a sip of wine. It says drink first cup of wine. You got to take it literally.
I like the spirit.
Take it literally and move along. So we're well into a bottle of red in my house.
Very nice.
Even though the virus has us as a Passover of 4, we did a virtual Passover with family members. So that was fun.
Very nice.
A Zoom over?
A Zoom over.
Yeah.
Exactly. Nice one. Yeah, Zoom became the Kleenex of video conferencing.
Seriously.
Overnight.
Just like that.
All right. So before we move off of the Fats, Hank and I have already sort of started mocking out the TFFL's first round, and I think, assuming the NFL goes on with its draft, we'll be doing some mock drafts here on the webcast soon enough. But I just wanted to ask Rob, have you started ranking the top rookie running backs coming out? Do you have any grand idea of who you like at number 2?
No.
Okay.
Situations might look like.
What's that?
Need to see what the draft situations might look like and who may play where.
Correct.
All right.
There's
no season anyway.
I don't really watch college football. I don't really even know who those running backs are until either Bill does his, post-draft appearance on the podcast, or I start ranking players after the draft.
Well, Fats, if you're bored, there's plenty of mock draft stuff out there. So
No doubt.
All right, let's move on and start talking about the Lizards.
Before you do that, just is Rob, were you basically looking at Mostert, Gurley? I'm trying to figure out who else. Madsen or Cohen, I suppose, and then Cup, Kelsey. Trying to figure out who else he got there.
Lockett
was the other. Okay.
I'll keep Lockett. I'll keep Cup for sure. Right, Gurley, Kelsey, AJ Green, and then it becomes like, and even you didn't mention James White. He's another guy, potentially a keeper.
There is no room for a quarterback then. If you're keeping Mostert and Gurley and Kelsey and Madison, AJ Green, Lockett, Cup, that's 7 guys.
I think Rob thinks he might be able to do better in the draft than what he's got on his board.
I know. Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like, I'm glad we're not drafting right now because I don't even know how you make that decision. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's no sense even worrying about it until the NFL drafts and camp starts, right? Because somebody's going to get hurt. Like, who knows, right?
There's a lot going on. Yeah, so sorry to revisit it all. I just wanted to make sure I got that little portion.
No, there are not a lot of answers with the Fats. They have a lot of options.
And we didn't talk about Lockett or Cup, right?
Right.
Yeah. Two great players.
Yeah, I kind of figure Cup is a no-brainer keeper.
I think Lockett's established himself fairly well now as, one of the go-to guys for Wilson. Big time.
Yeah. But, neither of those guys are like true, like top 5 studs, right? They're number 2 wide receivers.
No, they're serviceable.
They're good. They're good players.
They're good. They're guys with upside.
Mm-hmm. Week. All right, so let's talk about the Lizards now. Rich, we set this up by reminding people that you won this division last year. You beat the Aliens in Week 13 in a showdown game to win the division, and then beat the Aliens again in Week 14 in the playoffs.
Yeah, it was a clean 3-game sweep of you last year, wasn't
it? And beyond that, you've kind of been, with the exception of the Frams explosion in 2018, you've kind of been the class of this division for the last, I'll say, half a dozen years, and maybe it's a year or two longer than that. Several Pac Bowl appearances in that time frame, a Pac Bowl title.
Third was the charm.
But 7-5-1 last year, not out of reach of the rest of this division. Very easily could have been the Aliens winning that in Week 13 and taking that division. Your lineup is probably the most set among the 3 teams in this division. Let's just take it from the top. The news for the Lizards last year was you went out and acquired Baker Mayfield for Adam Thielen prior to the season. And then, like a lot of teams, you juggled quarterbacks throughout the year, and it was really Dak Prescott who was your stud most of the time. And I presume your keeper heading into 2020.
Yeah, it's amazing how things work out, right? I mean, you looked at Baker and thought he had all these weapons, coming in around him. He lit up the season before, the last 4, 5, 6 games that he played, and looked like he was going to be on fire. And we were blessed, actually, to have gotten Dak Prescott and for him to have the season he did, and now to be negotiating a contract. We'll see what happens with that. So as Fat said, there's a lot that can happen. However,
did you draft him, Rich?
I drafted Prescott 5th or 6th round, I want to say, something like that.
And to your credit, you guys were very quick to move. I mean, there was not a lot of a.
I didn't waste any time. You saw it, and it was very clear very quickly. And then it became the mindset very early. Just became, let Baker prove me that he should be in there. Mm-hmm. Let him prove it to me. Unless it is an easy matchup to call, which none of them are, of course. But no matter what you think, sometimes the opposite happens, right? So, in any case, Prescott's the guy to keep on my team right now. There's no question.
And looking ahead to 2020 and beyond, just as we thought Mayfield had a ton of weapons last year,
We're talking fantasy football.
Prescott now looks like, he's in a great situation for the years ahead with Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup, two really good young receivers there. Obviously, Zeke Elliott, what looks to be a strong Dallas offense for years to come.
He's still a young guy who's got quite the arm. He seems to have a full game around him. So I'm very excited about Dak. I think he can definitely be a top 7 quarterback.
Who did Dallas hire as their head coach again?
Oh, former Green Bay guy, McCarthy.
Yeah.
McCarthy, that's
Aaron Rodgers is a guy.
He's going to throw a lot. McCarthy likes to throw.
He does.
Didn't they lose some guys on their offensive line, though? Oh, they
Travis Frederick retired, the center.
Yep.
They're retired.
Yeah. So the story with the Lizards, and I think we briefly mentioned this before Rich got on. Rich is one of those teams that has won with a little bit of an odd formula, leaning very heavily on receivers with a dominant receiver group that it has been dominant for many years now and looks to be dominant heading into 2020. Odell Beckham, Michael Thomas, Mike Evans, 3 of the game's best receivers, guys who for the most part stay healthy, who are still young. What a great group. Able to give away Adam Thielen last year, and you still look at the receiver core and think, God, I don't want to face these guys. But the issue had been running backs for the Lizards. And so I think the real story here is more credit to Rich for a great acquisition of Joe Mixon at the end of last year. Obviously helped him getting into the playoffs, but was a nice number 1 guy at the top of your running back group heading into the next season.
Yeah, I'm super excited about Mixon. I know I gave up a 1 and carry on for him with the swap.
Yep.
And I don't think I got that far a pick down. I think it's like a 4 or something I got back. But I look back at my number 1 picking late in the draft for the past years, and it's garbage. I just haven't done very well with it. So the bottom line, I felt like Carry On's constantly hurt. Just in the first little bit I had him, I was just like, this guy's not a long timer for me. I hope he does well and starts to kick ass, but I know what I had in Mixon. It was there for the taking at the time, and boom. So now I have a guy who I feel is absolutely a top 10 running back. And if Joe Burrows comes in and AJ is back and they can turn that offense into something decent, then he was doing it without Joe Burrows there.
Yeah.
And without some other, pieces, and looking great at the end of the season. So very excited about that. And you look at the situation Eckler's in now, and that just turned my running backs all of a sudden into something that doesn't look as weak as it used to.
Now, Eckler being the man now with Gordon out of town is nice.
Yeah. But Phillip Rivers is out of town too. I don't know about that San Diego offense.
You're not a believer in Tyrod Taylor?
Ex-Bill.
It's all about opportunity. I mean, if he's in there, and he's the running back and he's the guy, he's going to score you some points. Tyrod Taylor's not horrific.
Who else is there with Eckler?
Justin Jackson. Yeah.
So, they could draft somebody, whatever, but hey,
shitty offensive line.
It's something, right? So it's certainly better picture without Gordon there. So you'll take that.
Absolutely.
Mixon 23, that's great. I mean, I thought he was like 25, but he's 23. And then Jordan Howard. Okay.
All of a sudden, he's back in Miami.
Yeah, he's Miami.
He's got an opportunity, and so we'll see. See how, if there is training camp, see how he looks.
Mm-hmm.
But you never know there too, and that could be something that develops. It's at least something to monitor and see what happens there.
Yeah, I'll be honest right now and say that it would be most likely. It's hard. Howard would be probably the best of the best there, but Edmonds could also step in now as the backup to Drake, or he may see more of a role.
Mm-hmm. They want to play him
because he looked great before he got hurt too, and they had to trade. If they didn't have to trade for Kenyon Drake, I would have been that much better last year with Edmonds, because he was starting to light it up.
Yeah, he had big
I
games.
mean, my point was, yeah, he may or may not be a keeper, but it's at least something to monitor, and it could be a viable option. And hey, it could be a starting running back.
I don't know.
Now the thing is,
Go ahead.
Miami's got 3 first-round draft picks. Assumption is they'll pick a running back in the first 2 rounds of the draft. But hey,
Yeah, I mean they're going to get a quarterback, and then they're probably going to do that, unless they have other needs to fill, and they feel good about that. Who do they got? Balage? Is that the other guy I got?
Jalen Balaj, my guy. Balaj is the man.
There you go.
Wheels
I didn't look
skipper.
that bad.
I started him a number of weeks last year.
Yeah.
I think Berkman's in a good situation where his 7th keeper, whoever that may be, whether it's Edmonds or whether it's Damian Harris or whether it's Jordan Howard,
It could be Austin Hooper.
any of the or Hooper, sure, whoever it turns out to be will be wonderful. And let's see how that's where the training camps and the early stuff is going to matter in terms of which one of those guys is really going to give you the best shot.
Yeah, but we're talking about the number 7 guy, and if it's Jordan Howard,
or maybe it'll be Justin Tucker. Couldn't hold a kicker again.
Might be.
Oh, Justin Tucker.
And the only knock on the Lizards at all, Rich mentioned this, is they don't have their first round pick, but they will probably carry the strongest, most solid keeper list into 2020 among the 3 teams in our division. So they'll
Including
survive.
Justin Tucker.
Maybe. I mean, it is one of the things the Lizards don't have, unlike the Fats, who we've talked about, have a ton of keeper options. I'm not sure there's a lot of options on the Lizards if Jordan Howard doesn't look like a reasonable play. I actually think, so it's Chase Edmonds, it's maybe Baker Mayfield even as a second quarterback.
It had crossed my mind. Yeah. But I think I would lean towards Hooper as the next value.
Yeah.
I could play him as running back or receiver, and he's going to be playing with Baker, and he's going to be the number 1 guy. It'll be interesting to see where what happens with what's his name, Njoku.
Yeah. I've had Hooper. Before I think he was a little overrated in free agency with the contract he was getting. But yeah, he's somebody in a pinch you would keep and be able to start as a 3rd running back. Sure.
Yeah. Let's not forget John Brown was pretty darn good too.
Mm-hmm. The Bills are going to be an interesting team this year. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's talk about my team. Talk about the Aliens.
Do it.
I don't want to lead this discussion.
I'll lead it. Let me lead it.
There you go. Lead us in, Hank.
All right. The Aliens are an interesting study that I think is going to be one of our more fun teams to look at here. Quarterbacks, we've got Wentz and we've got Drew Brees. All right, 2 good quarterbacks that we're going to get into that discussion. The running back department, we've got Melvin Gordon, new change of scenery in Denver, exciting. Carlos Hyde came on nicely last year in Houston. How valuable is he going to be? Who knows? What's up with Devontae Freeman now that Gurley's in town? Where is he? Is he still in Atlanta?
He's
gone.
He's in the same boat as Carlos Hyde. They're free agents right now.
They're free agents.
Free agents.
Yeah.
Okay. So there might be something interesting there. But then the receivers are also interesting with Chark and Cooper and Sammy Watkins, good players. So this team got something. Discuss.
So
I mean, Aliens running back core is not good.
No.
They got problems there. Yeah, I don't know. It just went to hell in a handbasket all of a sudden. It looked good, and then Freeman, Gordon.
Yeah, once Freeman got let go, that was a decent hit.
But I'm actually talking before. So when we had this webcast in the off season, going into this coming season, and the trade for Gordon and Freeman, it was a nice unit, and now it's just not been any good news on any front, and that hurts.
So I think you're largely talking about my running backs in this case. Let me just address.
Yeah, I'm just talking about your running backs here. There, yeah.
Devontae Freeman, the fact that Atlanta cut him was almost irrelevant. He is done.
You think so? Yeah, he's just done.
I was not thinking he's going to be a 2020 keeper. Now, there's a chance he somehow lands on an NFL team where he gets a starting shot and maybe I end up having to keep him, but he looks done. Melvin Gordon, we'll see. You know, the early rumblings are he's going to be the number one guy for what that's worth in Denver. He's still a talented guy, but God, that was one of the just dumbest and ill-fated holdouts we have seen in a long time.
And there was nothing good for him. He missed half a season. He got more money, less money than he would be offered. It's just unbelievable.
Hurt the Chargers. But he's potentially still a number one running back. He was a genuine stud in 2018 for me, and before that, 2 strong years for Ralph. So I'm keeping my hopes up that he's still a viable, strong running back. But Mark Andrews is a guy, Phil, you didn't mention.
True. Like Jay.
He's a keeper. Mark Andrews is a keeper on this team.
Yeah. I don't love keeping a tight end, but if I'd have to pull it up to confirm this. I think Mark Andrews scored 10 touchdowns last year. He's a very good tight end on a great Baltimore offense. A young guy. I won't be sad about keeping him, but that's my number 2 running back right now. The interesting case is Carlos Hyde, who had a really strong year last year. Actually, I think 1,100 or 1,200 yards. Didn't score a ton of touchdowns, but was a guy I was starting every week and getting production out of on a good Houston offense. I think he may have made a colossal mistake in turning down Houston's contract offer. I'm now kind of left hoping he ends up signing, with Tampa Bay or Miami or somebody like that and has a shot at the starting job, in which case he could be a keeper.
Yeah, you got question marks there.
Yep.
Let's get to the exciting part, though, which is the quarterbacks. Talk to me about Breeze and Wentz. What are we doing?
I think if, assuming guys like Devontae Freeman aren't keepers, Latavius Murray, probably not a keeper. I think I almost have to keep both of those quarterbacks at the moment, unless I make a trade to bring in a running back.
Why do you have to keep both of them, Stick?
Tell me who my 7th keepers are.
Why don't you just
decide which one is the future of the aliens and trade the other one?
Well,
and then get something back for it, maybe.
Right.
I would love to trade Breeze. I mean, Carson Wentz is obviously the future out of those two guys. And
can I just make one statement? I think Stafford is actually going to have the best year of all of them.
That's a wild card here, in fact. Yeah. I have 3 very good quarterbacks, in fact, and Stafford.
Who's Wentz going to throw to? That's the problem.
I would love to be excited about some rookies that they draft and feel good that he's got a good core of guys to throw to. But Stafford, the way he was playing at the start of last year, the fact that he's got Galladay, he's got Hawkinson, Marvin Jones. That's a good passing offense in Detroit.
I just think I think he'll be back with force. I think he could have a really good year. I think he might be your best quarterback next year. But I would say Breeze is your guy from placing bets
short term.
But
if we're not playing football in 2020, Breeze may not play football again. Then I can't keep Breeze in that scenario.
But Stick, why do you? If you drop Breeze, let's say you can't trade him, you drop him. He's a 3rd, 4th round draft pick.
Probably, yeah. You're probably
why would you
right.
This is my point.
I wish I had somebody I was more excited to keep as a 7th guy. Right now, it's Harrison Butker is as much an option as anybody.
Great option.
Keeping the kickers is going to become something. Berkman was a trailblazer with Vanderjagt years ago.
Right. 25 years too early.
Yeah, your answer is you're going to, potentially trade for a 7th keeper and drop the other guy, and that quarterback, one of those quarterbacks may or may not be part of whatever the draft package is that you can put together, and you go from there. But
I want to keep Carson Wentz. He is my future quarterback. Hopefully, last year was disappointing, but I think that was largely the fault of the Eagles and the receiving core they put out there. Some of the injuries they had, they've got to give him more weapons. But he's a very good quarterback. He's a definite keeper for me. It's really a question of do I trade Breeze? Do I keep Breeze as well? But I think Wentz will be on the Aliens in 2020.
Who are your receivers besides Cooper Stick?
The top two are Amari Cooper and DJ Chark.
Chark, that's right.
Watkins got re-signed.
Watkins is in the mix.
I think he's a keeper for you right now.
If I didn't keep Breeze, Watkins would be probably the seventh guy. I'm kicking myself more and more for acquiring Drew Brees and giving up AJ Brown. I would love to have AJ Brown. That was a great draft pick last year for me, and unfortunately, I traded him away.
Yes, you did.
That hurts.
Yep. It was either him or DJ Chark in that trade for Drew Brees, and I wanted to keep Chark. But Brown really exploded down the stretch, and he's an exciting player. I think Chark, everybody's a little down on Jacksonville because, oh my God, Nick Foles has got I keep saying this. Nick Foles is so overrated. I don't get all the buzz about him in Chicago. I didn't get the buzz about him in Jacksonville a year before. I'm not sold that Gardner Minshew is a great quarterback, but Chark did just fine with him last year. So now
I would say he did. I would say Chark did better than fine. He was a number one guy when Minshew was in there.
Yeah, sure. He was.
Yeah, he tailed off down the stretch when they were sort of going back and forth between Foles and Minshew. But for the first 10 weeks of the year, Chark was a number one, number two receiver. I'm worried about the Aliens. Wentz needs to take that step up to the next level. The running backs are a mess right now, and I've got two receivers. I still need to go get a third receiver. So there's a lot of work to do. But for the first time in years, I've got a first-round draft pick. It is a deep class in terms of good rookies coming out. I'm excited about that. And I'll pat myself on the back a little bit. I feel like I've done a good job drafting in recent years. I've done a good job piecing teams together with guys like, the Latavius Murrays of the world. And we've been in the playoff hunt. We'll see what we can do this year. But Rich, I think getting off the Aliens back to the division at large, I think Rich will probably enter 2020 or the next time we play as our favorite, as the Lizards have done for a half dozen years now.
We're going to try to keep it that way. Try to keep it young. Keep it young.
Hey, so we didn't ask a trivia question at the start because I was waiting for Rich.
Awesome. I was going to ask about that.
But I have a really good one, so I'm going to give it.
All right, I need a pen.
Hold on.
Oh, I don't have any paper either. Hang on. Hey, Stick, I have an idea for a segment, too, when we're done with this that you guys could do weekly.
All right.
I like new segment ideas, Fats.
Sure.
Okay, so this is a timely trivia question. Let's presume to end on an optimistic note. Let's presume we're going to play football in 2020.
We are.
We are. It will be the start of a new decade.
Right.
Depending upon how you count your decades. So we have played in the 1990s. We've played in what they call the 2000s, and we may have just wrapped up the 2010s. Again, depending upon whether you see 2019 or 2020 as the end of the decade. But we've had three decades now in which we have played. I will tell you as a fact, no TFFL team has won the Packed Bowl in all 3 decades. 2 TFFL franchises have made it to the Packed Bowl in all 3 decades. Name those 2 franchises.
Ooh. Wait,
2
franchises?
2 franchises have been in a Packed Bowl in each of the 3 decades we have played in. The 90s, the 2000s, and the 2010s.
2 franchises.
2 franchises.
How many points each?
This is a tough question, I think. I'll give you 3 points each, chance for 6 overall points.
Oh, boy.
You don't need to get them both. Just give me one and you can get 3 points.
All right, we ready?
No, I'm not ready.
I
I am not ready. Hang on.
Well, tell you what, to give you time to write down your answer, Rob, what's your idea for a future segment for the web?
Yeah.
Keeping track of everyone's hair. Because, we're not getting haircuts for a while.
I got a haircut.
How'd you get a haircut?
We had a guy come to our house and cut all 4 of our hair.
Did he wear a mask?
No.
Did you quarantine him for 14 days in your house before you cut your hair?
This is a hairstylist that Kate has gone to previously, who has a salon. His salon obviously is
He's not doing that with anyone else.
Right.
Phil was the 18th house on the tour that
All right, well, I think it's something we should do. You should definitely do a hair check for every webcast. You know,
All right.
I'm due this week. I was supposed to have an appointment. It's not happening.
Yep.
Anyways, that's my idea. And I got to think of my second team. I think I got
Yeah,
one.
me
But
too.
I'm
Hold
trying to
on.
think of the
Yeah,
other.
I'm trying to think of my second team too.
I got 2 other things while we're thinking here too. So I don't know if you saw the Tom Brady interview or heard about the Tom Brady interview with Howard Stern.
I did not.
Where Tom Brady admitted to smoking pot. Not that it's groundbreaking that a high schooler is going to smoke pot, but to have Tom Brady actually say that in an interview is
Everyone's image of him is shocked.
when you think about that. And again, it's a testament to how good of an interviewer Howard Stern is that he actually got that out of him in an interview. Think about that.
It is true.
Great.
That's all a nod to the new CBA, I think. You know, I'm not sure he's as comfortable admitting that even a year ago when the CBA was just a little or a lot less friendly to weed.
I agree with that. My only thing is, though, still an active player who is the greatest of all time, who, you know, for him to say that, I thought was pretty stunning. So, anyway.
California. Of course. You know? Relax.
And the other thing, the nod to Eli up at Syracuse passing away.
Oh, yeah. That was sad.
Crazy. So a little toast to Eli.
Hit by 2 separate cars that both hit and run. That's a little fishy.
That's really messed up. That's
a little fishy.
The guy had nothing but love and goodness in his heart.
He was always happy and good-spirited guy.
Yep.
I got to be honest. I was a little shocked he was still alive. But
Me too.
I'm right there with you, Rob.
Fair point. But that was.
But he was. And he was in his 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah. He wasn't that old.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, you look at some of those pictures they had in recent ones, like he looked pretty good. He looked like he got himself all together.
Yeah. All right, let's see your trivia answers. Looking for 2 teams that have made the Pac Bowl in the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s. One of those teams, I see a couple correct answers sprinkled among here. The Hormel Hams and the K-Wheels.
I had no idea. Really?
I thought it was me.
I knew you'd be happy about that.
I got one.
I had no idea.
No aliens?
I got one of them.
All right, so who gets points?
Keep in mind the Aliens are one of the few teams remaining that have never won the Pac
No,
Bowl.
that I know, but I thought was a bit of a trick there.
Burrow, did you get a
I didn't
point?
realize the K-Wheels had made it to all 3.
Right. I got the wheels.
Bork got 1. And Fast, did you get any? You got 0. Okay. I got 0.
Losers and sends.
All right. So that brings our season totals to Borkman has now tied Chief at the top with 4. Berto is next with 2. And Hank and the guest, Bagels.
Oh, I got points. I've gotten points. I don't think your numbers are right.
Just got 3 tonight.
You just got 3.
Oh, you gave him 3. I just gave him 1.
No, I got 3 and he got 3. 3 points each.
He got 1. I thought it was 3 if they got them both.
No, 3.
How many points for each one?
That puts Rich in the lead then.
All right,
6.
3 and 3.
Points for each answer.
3 points for each correct answer tonight.
Great.
So
All right. So then Borkman goes to 6. Berto goes to 4. And Chiefs at 4. So now Borkman is in leading position with 6.
Right on.
Berto next with 4 each. Nobody else has anything.
Okay.
all right.
I did.
So let's wrap up here. We're now over an hour, but it's been a good chat here for an hour, folks.
One sec.
Rich,
Just a couple of commissioner
please.
statements, just real quick. To close off, I'll make it quick. One, I want to reemphasize from the last webcast the rules process, the changes that are coming. One might even think that, should there be a debate around if they don't have a season, do we have to declare keepers or not? What if that's determined before the keeper deadline? Do you just leave it open and not have to declare your keepers until the next time, the season is ready to start and training camp ends, right? I mean, technically it's when training camp ends when we have to declare our keepers. So I don't know. There's rules to be had out there, and I encourage everyone to think about it and get them in. I don't want to set a deadline
to the rule book.
What's that?
We need a whole pandemic section to the rule book.
Yeah.
Pandemic section. All right.
I think the season.
Pestilence.
I think the season is not tied to training camp. It is tied to when the first game is, and I believe that our rosters would remain intact until a week before the first game, whenever that is. I believe.
Yeah.
First game.
Or the draft.
Right, but usually what happens is good night, sweetheart. Usually what happens is we extended it at one point, if I'm not mistaken, from the Dominic Davis era, where we said we're going to wait until the end of training camp and then have it following that last day of training camp when we would essentially declare that was the day. Maybe I'm wrong.
Wait, are we talking about
noon Sunday after training camp ended?
Are we talking about the keeper deadline date?
We're mangling a lot of things.
Yeah, the keeper deadline date. That's what I'm talking about.
Isn't that on Labor Day at noon or something?
Rich is saying we have tied that to NFL rosters being finalized.
Oh, right. Okay.
Which wouldn't, in theory, happen if we
Didn't have a
season.
And
but yet
we'll know way before that.
And Rich, we talked about this at length at the start of the webcast. Even in that scenario, though, you still have an incoming draft class. So, presumably we're going to want to have a TFFL draft. Can you have a TFFL draft if you haven't declared keepers? There's all these questions, and you're right. We'll have a lot of decisions to make.
We need rule. Stick's point is we need rules for every one of these scenarios. So get them in.
Rob, you're in charge of pandemic rules. Okay. You're in charge of pandemic rules. Everyone else, think of other rules that we need to consider relative. And I'm not going to put a deadline on things based on where we are. We're in a unique year with a unique situation. So I'm not ready to put any deadlines out there, but it would be great to have a lot more in than we have right now from people giving it some thought. So anyway, that's number one. Number two is that you can check the website. And as I promised, Chief is now listed there as the 2019 champion. It's out there on the web. I think we have all the right.
Well done.
I posted a picture for him as well. So you're all good. All good on that. And that's it. Commissioner out.
Rich.
Yes, sir.
Do you want me to put the essential document on Google Drive and break it out into all its essential parts so it can be in one spot forever?
Yes.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome. Yep. There's only one caveat to it, which is it needs to be password locked.
Yeah, I'll share it with the people.
Just like the commission.
Only those people can get to it.
That group.
For ethical reasons, it should be maintained that way. But that would be awesome, Rob. Do you have the latest version? I did send it out in my last email.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I believe so. I think I sent it out following one of our. If not, it's the last version Terry sent. Right. Terry sent the last version, and that would be the last updated version.
I have Terry's.
Perfect.
I didn't see one from you, but
yeah.
I know we all got a lot of time on our hands. Before we spend a lot of time documenting what we will do in each possible scenario of the draft, the paranoia pandemic, we got time, guys. We got 3 months before anything has to be decided. There are no keepers due. There are no rosters that have to be cut.
Yeah, I don't mind talking about it, but we do not need to start making rules yet. Yeah.
We'll
all right. All right.
I think we should make rules just to piss Thornburg off.
Well, we do need rules. We don't need to make them or vote on them quite yet, but we do need rules. Yeah. Please get them in.
Ordinary updates to our rule book. We are in that process. Please get your proposals in.
So I have nothing against. Go ahead,
Can we have a webcast?
I said so. Phil can vote no across the board.
Yes.
I
Yes.
think you're gonna have an open mind this year, but the bottom line is I have no objections to you thinking about pandemic rules as well. And Rob's in charge, so
Berto, I may be wrong on this, Berto. I may be wrong. I'm often wrong, but I think I voted yes on something last year.
I think
Wow.
you
I think I
Nice.
did.
Okay.
I don't remember what it was, but I think I voted yes on something.
All
it
right.
just takes
You
two
have to do
decades.
a little research on that, find out what it was. Curious.
I believe we were almost unanimous in shit. What was the change we made to home field advantage points or something? So
Oh
we
yeah.
could
Yeah.
not have, yeah,
I think we were-
Yeah.
3.5.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's such an obvious one that we didn't do for 20 years. Anyway, okay. So we're now at an hour, 10 minutes. Let's wrap up here, guys. But great talk. Rich, happy Passover. Again, my apologies for not alerting you sooner, but glad you could join us.
Sorry,
Rob?
you were passed over.
Yeah. Good call. Yeah, Rob,
Hit
glad to
inside
see you.
way too much.
Glad to see you.
All right, guys.
Yeah, stay safe, stay sane. We got one more division to wrap up. We're trying to get Ralph on here so we can have all three members of the NOCO East to do our final division preview. Perhaps this weekend, we'll see if we can get a response out of Ralph.
I'm working on that. I did,
I know.
however, real quick in wrapping up, I threw out the email about the potential for a TFFL Suns Fortnite tournament. I immediately got an email from Ralph saying that both of his sons were in.
Okay.
So I know that some of you others have sons that have played, and maybe not most recently, whatever it may be. Luke has asked me to get on top of this. I want to be on top of this, and we're going to set something up. It's all Stick's fault. He started this. We want to be able to create a game where they can all play. We can stream it and see who's the champion.
If you set it up, I'll invite my son to it, and we'll get him. I'll do my best to get him to show up for it for sure.
That's all we can do. All right.
He'll probably bring his buddy who he always plays with, and they'll come in and join a team or do what it is. You
That's
set up the rules. If they have to bring 4 people, 2 people, whatever it is,
I don't know.
set it up, and I'm happy to twist his arm to get him there, make it happen.
All right.
Now,
We're
the
gonna
other
make
thing
that
is you got to tie this happening to Ralph showing up here. See,
Right.
so that's the deal. The deal is you say, hey, Ralph, if your boys are that interested in playing, you got to show up here this week for Webcast, and then we'll get it on.
All right. Well, I have pinged Ralph twice on the webcast attendee, and I will continue to do so. We will get him here, and we will talk about the NOCO East next time.
Very good. Well done.
Stick, what's the next topic?
What's that?
What's the next topic?
Just want to keep talking. I've got to go cook dinner. I haven't eaten it.
Do you like everything matzah? Lightly salted matzah? How do you like your matzah?
What I want to know is
Lots of ball
what kind
soup.
of smoothie did you have for lunch today?
A smoothie. How was your smoothie today, Stick?
Yeah, how was your smoothie today?
I actually went for a different fruit and vegetable. I went for a baked potato for lunch today.
A baked potato smoothie? That's
That-
disgusting.
That's disgusting.
It wouldn't be disgusting if it had bacon in it.
Bacon and cheddar cheese in the smoothie.
Sour cream in there? Yum.
Interesting.
We're off the rails.
The lunch every day is fresh fruits or vegetables of some sort, or frozen. I shouldn't say fresh, but
We got to end.
yeah, you're absolutely right.
We got to end.
Berto,
now.
what's the next topic?
We may have to do like maybe not tonight, but an overnight webcast. You know, just
Sort of like
Right.
like
so
fish
when
playing.
the sun comes up.
A telethon.
Just let it go.
It's like fish playing the
We're
millennium.
gonna have guests
Waiting till the
now.
sun.
I watched the
It's
4th
telethon.
show. It was
The
show
TFFL
number 4.
telethon.
I think it was show number 4 from the what was it? The breakfast in bed. The what was that
Dinner
called?
movie.
Dinner and a movie. Yeah, show
Oh,
4.
yeah.
And they opened with sample in a jar, and it went on and on. It was just awesome.
Well,
it was
that
such
was
a great opening.
That was the jam-filled donut night of the Baker's Dozen. So it was extended jams. So
Oh,
I have no idea.
started
what
with
you're
that
talking
jam, and it
about.
was awesome.
Stick. End this webcast now.
You got the controls. All right. Hey, everybody, take care out there. We will be back as soon as Ralph allows us. So put the pressure on Ralph to accept Phil's invitation, and we'll be back here hopefully in just a few days talking about the NOCO East. Hopefully we'll have an NFL draft very soon. Hopefully we'll have an NFL season. But most importantly, everybody, hopefully you stay healthy, stay sane. Take care. We'll see you soon.
Good night.
Good night.